Hi, Thea. Is that how I pronounce your name in English? Thea instead of Thea?
Tia, your choice.
Whatever
Hi,
works. And
Robert.
welcome,
Good to meet
and
you.
wel and welcome to Big Minds
Thank you.
Camp. I've been looking so much forward to speaking with you. Um,
You too.
it's rare I have a chance to really pick somebody's brain that is so deep into organizational design and like modern building of organization as you are. But I actually wanted to start out with a question that I like to kind of start out with. So you are spending a lot of time talking with businesses about what I would call modern ways of organize your business structure. When people reach out to you and engage with you and talk to you and say, "Hey, Tia, we need your input, we need your help.
hmm
Please come and talk with us." What challenges is it that they are normally seeing? What are the biggest like kind of reasons that they reach out to you? What is it they're trying to solve?
Hmm. Well, the feeling of tension, that things are not working the way they expect them to do in the regular setup. So they feel this the drawing from the future that something is changing and they're lacking behind. And to describe it more tangibly, they kind of feel that they're wasting their time. So the old ways of doing things is stalling progress.
Hmm.
That you end up spending so much time in meetings. You end up spending too much time on a Teams call with your emails, with waiting for somebody else to take decisions. So it's very much this sense of, ugh, uh, yeah, we're wasting our time.
So how is that because the companies you usually work with are startups, they become successful, they kind of grow, and then at some point, is it normally along that journey that at some point they start to see these challenges and then they kind of reach out to you in order to say, hey, how do we solve this?
I often work with companies quite early, so they also come to me saying, we did this in our previous roles and jobs and companies, and now we're starting new, and we want to avoid that scenario. So we want to build something that's different from the very set off, uh, because of what we experienced um, in these kind of outer circumstances, but also because there's something telling us that there's a different way to do things.
Hmm.
There's a different way of leading that we believe in, and but we don't know how.
Fascinating. So what do you tell them?
I tell them that there is a how. That
There is
there
a
are
different way.
there is definitely a different way, and that there are lots of examples. So there
Yeah,
are lots of cases, but they still need to find their own way,
yeah,
which can be annoying. Can you just give us a recipe? Can we just please, implement this? Uh, Go do. And of course, there are some basics. Start
yeah.
here, but along the way, you need to build your own ways of working and your own culture.
So I totally recognize that at 24 slides, the
hmm
calendars filling up really fast. And the challenge that, and we're actually kind of, I won't say we struggle with it now, but it is a challenge when you grow and you get more people. You need
hmm
more communication. You need more alignment. In order to do that, you need more meetings. And there is a dichotomy in on one end, you want to make sure everyone is aligned, that everything is kind of well communicated and done the right way. But at the
hmm
same time, because you grow so much, it's kind of like you can't really do that. So how is in that scenario where they feel like we're doing too many meetings, there's not much progress, we're slowing down. Do you have maybe an example of somebody where you said, they were experiencing, you don't have to name them by name, but they were experiencing this situation where, pace of decision making, for instance, went down. And then we went in, we looked at how they work with that, and how you kind of went through it and how it came out on the other end. I would love to learn more about that.
hmm hmm Well, one example. is from a Danish scale up, and they were hitting this 120 people, and they had 10 managers,
Mhm.
like 10 kind of VP level,
Yeah.
and their meetings, management meetings, just prolonged and prolonged and prolonged, because they had this mindset that they really wanted everyone to be equal, which
Yes.
is super nice and super fair. But it then ended up with this like consensus way of
Mm.
we all have to have an opinion about everything,
Yes.
uh, uh, which then it drags out, and people give up, and it just
Yes.
becomes the same people always deciding because those are the most extroverted or outspoken or whatever. Um, so what they did was they started experimenting with roles and responsibilities. It's something we've talked about in HR and people functions forever.
For many
But
years.
it's a different approach to roles and responsibilities. It's where you break down the roles into smaller pieces
Yeah.
that you can then divide amongst people. So it's not like you are the C something O and then these are all your roles, but we distribute them amongst us. So we can also distribute decision making and make it much more clearer who has the final call on what. Uh, and then when we have decisions to make in the larger community, we can give our proposal and then ask if anybody has any objections. So rather than having to discuss everything in detail and everyone has to have an opinion, then if anyone has any objections, they would say that, and you can, as the decision proposer, adjust your proposal, and then you decide. So the decision power is with this role, and you don't have to ask permission. You just have to ask if there is any objections. So it's more like consent based rather than consensus based, and this just speeds up decision making really quickly.
That's one of the keys in holacracy, right? Is
Yes,
that
yeah,
holacracy?
yeah. No, they didn't. They didn't organize as holocracy, as a holocracy as such. But again, they made their own choices. So
Yeah.
inspired by new ways of working, they said, okay, this particular method will work within our context, because they didn't break. They were still a management team,
Yeah.
so they didn't take away all management layers and just made it completely flat like in a holocracy. But they would adapt this methodology to
I
their
love
need.
that. So they move from
Mm.
consensus to what's the other
Consent.
one? Consent, from consensus to consent. And basically that means instead of reaching consensus on what is the right solution, you
Mm.
present a solution and then you ask, do you see anything wrong with this solution? And e.g., if you
Yeah.
don't see anything wrong, this is what we move on with. I recall that
Mm.
as a, oh, that is fascinating. Um, in Holacracy, they have that one, right? Where you basically say, we're not looking for the perfect solution. We're just looking for a solution that is better. And if you don't see a problem with a better solution, then by default we move forward with it. Is it kind of the same
Mm.
thing?
Yeah, it's this underlying mindset of good enough for now, safe enough to try. That Aaron Dignan speaks about a lot from the Ready. I mean, it's a broad
Interesting.
known term now, but it's okay. Is it good enough for now? Yeah, it's good enough. And is it safe enough? Is this going to break anything like major in our strategy? No. Okay, let's try it out, and then we can always give it like an end date. So think of it more as an eternal experiment, so to speak. But we're twisting. It's an agile way of working, right? So let's do this for 3 months, see if it works, and then we'll twist it and adjust it to however the circumstances have changed in between.
So how did that end up materializing in the company? Did that then mean that in the same span of time of a meeting, they could just make like 10x the decisions that they did before, or how did that change their day
I
to
wish
day?
I had those numbers. That would be such a convincing slide, right?
Yeah, that's true.
From
Moving up your decision
uh,
making. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's when I left them, they were experimenting with this and were going to bring it to their teams as well. Uh, So bringing it to their teams must mean that they have, found out that this worked for them.